everyone. This is Maheen, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Today, we are exploring a major shift in how we buy protection. In 2026, the most successful brands aren't just selling products, they are embedding peace of mind directly into customer journey. We're talking about insurance that works like a subscription, just contextual, digital, and effortless. Joining us to discuss this is Derek Szeto, the co-founder and CEO of Walnut Insurance. Derek is a serial entrepreneur who founded the Canadian household name redflagdeals.com. After leading major initiatives at RBC Ventures, he saw a massive, unrecognized opportunity in the insurance sector. Today, Walnut empowers embedded insurance for giants like Simple, BMO, Tim Hortons, and TELUS, allowing them to go live in weeks, not years. As without further ado, welcome our guest, Derek. And to begin our conversation, Derek, it's a pleasure having you on the show with us. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Maheen. It's great to be on.
Derek, it's a pleasure to have you join us here. And we'd love to kind of open a discussion. I know that the intro was a mouthful, but it was very impressive things and a very much needed, for our insurance industry. Let's open a discussion by understanding the magic of embedded insurance. You've described insurance as an unrecognized subscription in consumer spending,
Yeah.
something we all pay for but really enjoy interacting with. Um, for a business owner who is probably new to a concept, how exactly does embedded insurance work and who does it ultimately help the most?
Yeah. I think embedded insurance is actually like interesting. Part of the reason that I was attracted to it is that it actually helps all three parties. And so if we think about the three-party system, there's the consumer or the business, because it can be consumer insurance, it could be business insurance. There's the insurer, and then there's some sort of what we think of as like distribution partner or platform in between. And so for businesses like some of the ones you mentioned, like the Teluses, BMOs, Simples of the world that are looking to help their customers, one of the advantages that they have is that they actually have some like insight and data about what the customers are doing and where they might need some protection or insurance. And that's what we're trying to bring to life, is trying to use some of the insights and the customer journeys that already exist to be able to offer protection that the customer needs and wants at a particular place in time. So it's easier for them. Sometimes we say, like, unfortunately, most people don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm really excited to buy insurance today. It's much more likely if they're booking a flight and they're online and they've decided where they want to go, that they'll be asked, do you need travel insurance to go along with that? And we can help with situations like that. Or with TELUS, they're at the airport and they can see that they're location wise planning to travel. So, how do we prompt them to maybe buy travel insurance at a point in which they would need it? Similar for folks we work with in the sort of mortgage lending or mortgage broker space, where the consumer really wants to ultimately like have a home and move into their home. Do they really want the mortgage? Probably not. Do they really want the insurance? Probably not. But they need it along the path, and there's the data that's already there. So instead of going off separately and getting a home insurance policy in order to move into your home, you can leverage the data that's already in the process. So we're just trying to make everything a lot easier. We're trying to help consumers be able to get what they need at a moment in time where they need it, and reduce a lot of the friction, because I think insurance traditionally has been a space where it's been a little bit behind. It's still a lot of like, paper that's going back and forth, or PDFs that are going back and forth. And we think in terms of modernizing and using APIs that there's a lot we can do to improve the experience.
Right. Well, that is a good overview of the problem as well. And it tells us that transforming a traditionally manual and such an emotional process into a scalable digital solution is exactly what modern Canadian families need. Now, Derek, let's explore how brands are launching insurance products faster than ever through embedded solutions. Please tell us, why would a brand, whether it's a fintech like Wealthsimple or a utility like ADCO, like why would they want to offer insurance to their customers in the first place?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of different like brands, across the spectrum. So it could be, fintechs, it could be banks, it could be utilities, telcos, property managers. And what they all have in common is they have some sort of insight about the customer. The customer is using that product or service or platform to solve a specific problem that they have. And along the way, there are protection and insurance needs. And so we're trying to help them fill in that gap. And so, why would they want to, if we take Wealthsimple, offer insurance? It's really interesting, actually. If you look at the big six banks, they all have insurance arms. So it actually becomes like fairly natural, and we expect all the financial services platforms, the same way that there's a lot of embedded payments. Eventually, they get to embedded insurance, and we can help them be able to get there faster because we have some of these relationships already. We have the APIs and sort of the technology layers to make it easier for folks to be able to embed. And so the reason ultimately for these platforms to offer it is really some combination of two things. One is to create that customer loyalty and stickiness, and create customer satisfaction. And the second is there's opportunities also, of course, to be able to generate revenue from it. So it's always some sort of combination of the two. The simplest form of embedded insurance where is you have it sort of directly embedded into the product. So credit cards are a great example of that. We work with a host of folks, like the Tim Hortons card, the Wealthsimple card, where we're helping them find the right insurance coverage for that particular card. And they can actually use that as a way to differentiate their product relative to others. And that's just sort of fully embedded. That could be a travel insurance, could be mobile device, it could be collision damage waiver when you're having a rental car. And these are all things that consumers get extra value out of when they have a particular like card vehicle and decide which one to be able to use. So that's down this like loyalty and consumer value proposition. And then the other side of it is if they're able to like help the customer get the home insurance, the travel insurance, the auto insurance they need along the way, there's some economic benefit to them as well. And this is the same thing that we were talking about when we were talking about the banks, for instance, is they generate a meaningful amount of revenue, from the insurance line of business as well. And so this gives them the ability to just create both revenue and stickiness. And I think you'll see the same thing. Like it's very common for platforms like banks because they've been doing this for many years. But for utilities, for property management platforms, for any sort of platform that's like sometimes they call them like vertical SaaS platforms or something where they know something about the customer and the customer need, they're going to be looking at additional opportunities to create that customer loyalty, to generate some revenue out of it as they're doing it. And it's actually good risk for the insurers that might want to participate in those platforms as well.
Right. And creating that stickiness and driving incremental revenue while solving a real customer pain point is the ultimate win-win for any platform. So thank you so much for highlighting that, Derek. Next up, let's discuss how AI is transforming how insurance and business operate in 2026. Tell us, Derek, how is AI currently impacting this insurance industry, and what is the biggest shift that you're seeing in how how general businesses are adopting these tools?
Yeah, I think like AI is probably a hot topic for us and most Canadian businesses, small and large. And I think actually one of the advantages that smaller companies have these days is they can probably have much faster like AI adoption relative to like some of the large enterprises. And insurance, back to like when we started 5 years ago, one of the opportunities that we saw in insurance is that it's just further behind other industries from a technology perspective. So if you wanted API connectivity into an insurance company, it's actually very difficult to be able to get. Whereas you could get API connectivity into a lot of like, software platforms, SaaS, Shopify, and so on. So we're trying to bring that forward. And AI is actually one of the layers that enables folks to be able to just sort of catch up with the rest of the industry from an insurance perspective. So, we have a bunch of APIs. So let's say you're a platform, you're a business, and you wanted to integrate insurance. Now you can actually use things like, Claude Code and ChatGPT's Codex product to be able to more quickly integrate even with our APIs. So we see the impact really from like two levels. From an engineering perspective, you can integrate actually much faster and more efficiently. And the second is anything related to workflows. So if you think about the amount of paper that goes back and forth, PDFs that go back and forth in traditional like insurance journeys, even the forms that you're filling out online, whether you're getting home, auto, commercial insurance, you could leverage AI to like pre-populate a lot of that. You can leverage AI to analyze a lot of that. inside the brokerages, which we also are one. You can use AI to offer things like 24/7 service. So that could be a chatbot, that could also be a voice driven bot. And you can actually also do it in a more multilingual way. So the capabilities of AI to be able to have these like multimodal journeys just makes it easier for customers to get the service the way they want it, whether they want it in like chat, whether they want it on voice, whether they want to be able to get this in a different language. You can achieve all of that with AI at a much lower cost and with much higher efficiency than you could have in the past.
Absolutely. No, and you're absolutely right. I mean, using data signals to provide the right protection at the right time is how we finally close the coverage gaps that have existed for decades now. And this is for everyone that is listening or watching us. In 2026, if you're still asking customers to fill out a 10-page PDF forms for information that already exists online, then you're actually losing them. So please, understand the brands that win this year. This is still a new year. They will be the ones that use technology to make their customers' lives feel like magic, not a chore. So thank you for highlighting that, Derek. Now let's look at how recent partnerships are accelerating Walnut's growth across Canada. With your recent expansion, Derek, and the upcoming announcement of a major brand new US insurer, what have been the biggest lessons in scaling these high level partnerships?
Yeah, for us, like we have always sort of tried to differentiate in terms of speed. So one of the things that, like, I think we're proud of is that, we're a very nimble team that is able to respond really quickly. So part of the reason we're able to win some of the deals with, the large enterprises, is that even for large enterprise engagements, whether that be banks or large fintechs or utilities, or telcos, we can turn those around in 90 days or less. So we can deliver really quickly from the time they start engaging with us to this time they see something in market. That's back to, I think, one of the opportunities is to be able to leverage AI to be able to, of course, help us accelerate that. But speed to market has always been something that has been a differentiator to us. I think the other piece of it is that insurance sometimes is not the sexiest industry. So there is a bit of a knowledge gap that we can help fill, and we can help people find like these are the right insurers to go talk to. These are the right programs to be able to go and build against your audience. So we have a lot of knowledge in the 5 years that we've been working with different parties to bring to the table as well, and combining the technology expertise with the insurance industry expertise is sort of a combination that lets us be able to bring sort of these market like leading solutions. But that's sort of why we exist, is to try to share more about some of the opportunities that exist in embedded insurance, share more about what we're seeing globally as well, and be able to bring more of those global solutions into both the Canadian and US market.
Mhm. Successfully navigating the regulatory complexity of North American markets, it proves that your API first distribution strategy is ready for the global stage. Finally, Derek, let's explore how Walnut is solving real challenges for small business owners. Um, Embedded insurance has started on the consumer side, but how is Walnut moving to help other SMEs get the coverage they need without the paperwork headache?
Yeah, I think that's like you said, when people think about insurance, they probably more think about their home insurance or auto insurance or life insurance. And it certainly has started more on the personal line side, is like, people, what they call it from an insurance perspective. And that makes sense because in some ways, it's more uniform, it's simpler, right? Like a tenant insurance policy is fairly uniform across the board. Home a little bit more unique, auto a little bit more unique. But once you get into individual businesses, now there's actually a lot more complexity, because whether that is a like physical business, whether that's a service business, what are the risks associated with that business? Is there errors and omissions and potential liability there? Is it commercial general liability that they need to cover? Do you have to think about directors and officers coverage, cyber insurance to the extent that they're dealing more with like technology and sending data back and forth? So the level of complexity and the variation on the business side is higher than what you see on the personal line side. So that's why it's taken a little bit longer for commercial business to turn into more of this like API first world. So what you'll see over the next few years is because of things like AI that will accelerate. We already do offer small businesses the ability to get coverage with a digital flow, but it's still very much like digital input, and then there is work that's done by a licensed individual to be able to help find the right policy and match that. And over time, you'll just see more capabilities being able to offer that in a digital first, like end to end sort of basis. And we are live with a couple partners with commercial insurance solutions, and we expect that we'll continue to bring more on, and that'll just sort of accelerate the flywheel. That's part of what we've seen is as there's customers that want it, the insurers are more willing to sort of build some of those capabilities, and then we can integrate that together. So today, for the most part, small businesses will still need to like fill out a bunch of forms and be able to talk to somebody at the end to get a set of options and buy coverage. I think in the future state for simpler businesses, you'll be able to do that all online, and you won't need to go through as much of the hassle of like pre-filling information. You'll be able to connect to your like stores of data, whether that be your QuickBooks or whether that be your Google Drive, for instance. Pull in data that's coming from Google listings and be able to pre-fill a lot of the information that you would otherwise need to manually fill, and that'll more quickly let you get to a situation where you're able to quote and bind and sort of issue those policies even for commercial customers.
No, that brings us that same 30-day simplicity to business insurance. That will be a massive relief for so many entrepreneurs out there who just want to focus on their growth. So thank you for simplifying this for us, Derek. As you wrap up, if you could give one final piece of advice to a founder who sees a massive opportunity in a boring or outdated industry like insurance, what would it be?
I think but insurance is very pervasive. So sometimes we think about like what are things that are going to be true, over time. And I think there's not going to be less insurance. There's going to be more insurance. There's not going to be less embedded insurance. There's going to be more embedded insurance. And so our goal is always how do we like help like serve that area and serve that notion. And for the individual small businesses out there, it's something that we've experienced is a lot of acceleration, just being able to use a lot of these AI tools. So, we would suggest that like that's one of the advantages that small businesses have. You can move faster. So being able to adopt modern tooling to be able to help with their business is going to be something that like they can do that some of these larger businesses are going to have a hard time sort of keeping up. So we would definitely encourage folks to just like use more of the AI that's out there. There's like sort of a whole world of tooling and that even guides and content that folks can use to advance their business.
That is a great reminder, Derek, that the biggest opportunities they often hide in the places most people are afraid to look. So thank you for showing us that, and thank you for sharing such great expertise and your insights with us. Thank you.
Mm. Thanks for having me.
And listeners, that was Derek Szeto from Walnut Insurance, a masterclass on how to turn an unrecognized subscription into a seamless, data-driven revenue engine for the world's leading brands. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Please be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more resources. Before we leave, a special shout out to our partners, UPS and ADP, our HR partner, for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses across Canada. Please keep thriving, and we'll see you in the next one.